Welcome to the Mormon to Medium podcast, where we'll talk about spirituality, the paranormal, religion, and my journey going from Mormon to medium. I'm Nanette and Brad. Thanks for listening. Now let's go have some fun.
Don't be afraid. Close your eyes. There's a moon overhead, but the sun will rise. Blood on our lips, such a poisonous bite. The sound of our hearts go bump, bump, bump in the night.
Hello and welcome. This is the Mormon to Medium podcast. I'm Brad and I'm here with Nanette.
The Mormon medium. Hi, guys.
Hello, Nanette. And today we've actually got a special guest again. Today we are going to visit with Wylin.
Hi, everybody.
Hello. So Wylin has been one of my very best friends since we were in sixth grade.
Sixth grade.
We've known each other for a very long time. But he's got a really interesting take on a few different things. Number one, Mormonism. Number two, his own spirituality. And we're just going to have a good time and visit about a lot of different things.
And warning. These two regularly go 14. And I'm not even kidding. I may not get a word in edgewise the rest of this whole entire podcast. But these two are so fun to hang out with. But warning, you're going to get some 14s.
Hey, you know what? I know you act like you're always innocent in that, but we know better.
I am polyproper.
Polyproper.
I love that. You just coined a new phrase.
I like that.
It's a nanism.
And she used to be from Molly Mormon to Polyproper.
Proper.
Polyproper. Is that the non-Mormon version of being proper? Is polyproper?
Yeah, I'm polyproper.
I like it. I can get down with that.
I've always just thought it was funny because when you forge those friendships at a young age, it's like time can pass when Brad and I don't see each other, but when we're by each other, it's like we're 14 again. And those are friendships that you never, the older you get, you're just, the opportunity to have friendships like that is past, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Except for really rare circumstances. I'm sure like soldiers on the field of battle would have a connection like that. But I think that, and so I think Brad and I were on the same wavelength all night. We went to dinner and we've been almost finishing each other's sentences.
Constantly. But Wylin's wife knows that. It's a thing.
Yeah, shout out to Kristen, by the way.
Yeah.
Sexy Kristen.
Yeah, she's not here to keep me under control, so I'll try to keep everything at a low roar.
Yeah, right.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about your journey.
Okay.
And how you grew up. You grew up in a pretty devout Mormon family, right?
Yeah, I would say, let's see, how do you describe the Mormonism that I grew up in? Probably pretty normal, but my mom was pretty into it. She is really into Mormonism. And if you're going to live under someone that's like that's roof, you kind of have to toe the line. You have to get along to get along.
Yeah.
So even when I was young, just going to church was just really never my thing. I don't know. But then I did go on a mission, so I am a return missionary. So
Where
I
did you
followed
go?
it. I went to Riverside, California. So Southern California. Awesome place. If you're going to go on a mission, any guys out there listening to get a mission call, you're going to go and you want to go to Southern California. Tons of non-members, tons of members, because that's what missionaries want. We had dinner appointments every night. We went golfing on P-Day. When I left the airport, I gave my mom my coat, my wool coat, and said, I won't be needing this.
Nice.
Although, what's funny is when you've been in California for a year, the next year when it gets down to 60 degrees, yeah, you might as well think you're being in a frozen tundra because you get really wimpified down there.
That's
really
like living
quick.
here.
Yeah,
we live in
I'm sure.
St. George, and the first year we came down here, we were swimming in January. We thought it was amazing. And then now, I mean, until June, July, we don't touch that water because it's too damn cold.
Okay, it was in the 70s today, and I have a jacket on.
Yeah.
It's so dumb.
I remember on my mission, you would be at church or you'd be talking to other members in the ward down there in California, and they would always complain when they would go to Utah that it was just that they make the stores in Utah just too hot. Because when you go in there, you're sweating to death, and then you get to your car, you're freezing to death. And I'm like, yeah, because you guys are from California. You have your parka on, your beanie, you have your Gore-Tex gloves just to walk from your car into the mall or the grocery store. That's why you're sweating to death. I promise you, you won't freeze to death. Just that little journey from your car into the store, you'll be fine. But it's like the coldness was just abhorrent to them, and they wanted nothing to do with it.
Right.
Very entertaining once you get down there. But then I was just as bad the second year, so I can't really make fun of them because I was pussified bad.
I can't blame them at all. Good for them. Whatever. So when you went on your mission, was it one of those things? So we had a really good friend who was told if he went on a mission, the year he came back, his dad would buy him a Corvette of that year.
What?
Yep. He didn't want to go on a mission though. He goes, you know what? That's not the right reason to go. I would get a new Corvette, yes, but I don't want to go on a mission, and that's not the reason to go. And I was like really impressed because I would have gone on a mission.
Ryan's dad was like our second dad. He was a stand-up guy. I guarantee you, he had the money. He would have bought Ryan a Corvette. He easily would have bought him a Corvette. I'd totally forgotten about that story till now. But yeah, we used to talk. Ryan is like, yeah, should I go? Like, do you think Ryan would have lasted 2 years?
Oh my gosh. No, he would have kicked someone's ass, or like, he would have lost his shit on his AP and just, yeah.
Can you imagine Ryan on a mission? That would have been, I don't know. Should we give a backstory on Ryan? Ryan was just bull in a china shop. It was, you knew Ryan loved you when he gave you a dead leg, if he'd punch you, but he would punch you and then he would shove you. So it's like it would hurt because his knuckle would be out right here on your arm, but yet he would put that power behind it. You'd almost fall right on the floor. You're like, thanks, Ryan. And he was huge. I mean, he was like, when we were 14, what do you think he was? Like 2. He was a big kid. And I remember watching the games with his dad, and his dad would say, Ryan's like big. He should be out there on the line just being, and Ryan was just docile, just a big old teddy bear. He was never aggressive enough to really be he had the size to be a good football player, but he was just too. I remember Brent would just get so mad. Just move. He'd get so mad at Ryan. Yeah, that was the fun people we grew up with. They were awesome.
Yep.
Miss Ryan.
Absolutely. You know, he's the one we've talked about before, where I kept getting that feeling that, hey, I need to go and visit him. And there was always something happening. And I didn't end up visiting him, and he ended up passing away. And that was really hard. Since then, I have not ignored promptings like that at all. If I get something to, hey, you need to call this person, you need to see this person, I absolutely reach out because of that. So
you literally will pull over, park, and reach out. Like, he doesn't even waste time. He does it like right now. So that's like a priceless gift I think Ryan gave you.
I really hope, if I can borrow a nanism here, I hope that Ryan's on my spirit team.
Right?
On your team, definitely. I think he's on both of your teams.
It's hard. Sorry. It's hard. This is something that's really hard for me to talk about, because I remember that, like, a few days before Ryan died, I remember I was in town, and his parents had a company where they were working out of town a lot. And there was a time when you would see Ryan on the regular, and he would call you, do things, and then he would be out of town for weeks at a time, and then we would lose contact, you know, and then he'd be back in town, and for some reason, I don't know if he was busy, but he wouldn't call you, and then you would have to see him somewhere, and then you knew he was back in town. And I remember I was sitting at the light in Spanish Fork on Highway 6 by where, well, it was Storehouse Market. Then it's a Maverick now. And Ryan lived in a neighborhood just on the other side of Highway 6. And I saw him in his truck turn and then go down there. And I thought, oh, that must mean he's back in town. I was on my way home. I said, I should just jump this light, go straight, follow him in his neighborhood and go see what's up. And I didn't, because I was in the turn lane, and I just went home. And then I remember Sean Vest called me, like, I wasn't even 48 hours that Ryan's in the hospital. He's not responsive. I just missed out on an opportunity to see him one last time.
Yeah.
So you guys both had very similar situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And those opportunities, you just got to jump on that. You got to listen to the prompting. You just got to do it. I say prompting because of my Mormon background. anyone who's a member of the LDS Church, they know what I mean. Yep. But I'm prompting, whatever it may be. Yeah, I should have listened. You got to listen to that.
Yep. That's an appropriate word, though. I think it fits. I think it definitely fits.
Yeah, that I was. Sorry if I can take us on another tangent. That bothered me. And Brad was next to me at the funeral, and he knows I was just an absolute wreck. And thank God for Brad, because he was. I remember he. God, you just. Sorry, this is a really tough thing to. This has been so long. You'd think that it wouldn't be like this
Right?
still. But I guess the background. I guess a good background is this: is that Ryan. We were close. Like if his family went and did something, I would go. If my family went and did something, Ryan would go with us. And so I was just heartbroken about that. And Brad knows I was a mess that day of his funeral. And thank God Brad was there. I remember him putting his arm around me, and the back of the church, because we were on the back row because I wanted everyone to see us crying. But I was just absolutely heartbroken, and I just didn't know how to deal with it. And you know how when you have dreams where it seems like that it's a dream. So your dream's going along, and then all of a sudden something changes in your dream, and you have that thought, did I just pass into dream state? Am I in reality now? Because all of a sudden everything becomes real-ish. I don't know how to explain it. Like this dream I had, like I was in the army. I know this sounds really weird. And I remember we were going over these hills, and we got to a building. And as soon as we got to this building, I was standing in front of an elevator. And then all of a sudden something clicked, and I swear that like the dream state took over my physical, and I was standing in front of an elevator, and the elevator doors open, and there's Ryan standing there. But it wasn't Ryan in his unhealthy stage. It was Ryan when we were teenagers, like when we were 16, 17.
When we'd go and work out at Bud's.
At Bud's, yeah. And I just remember physically feeling a smile form on my face, like just this awesome moment of joy, like, oh my gosh, Ryan. And I remember standing there, and the first thing I did, and then also I had this heart. I'm like, Ryan, I'm sorry I didn't come and talk to you that day. I'm so heartbroken. I didn't get to see you. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'm fine. Everything's going to be okay. Don't be sad about this any longer. I just remember that joy, and then just finally getting a little bit of relief. I still feel bad, and my heart's still broken, but it was like, whether that was my mind telling me how to deal with it, or if it was...
No, that's real.
Because
those are real.
I don't know how to explain. I've never had a dream like that since. I've never had one that was so like, I physically, like, if someone was watching me with the camera, they would, for some reason, like, this guy's crazy, because this huge toothy smile just formed on his face. And I remember just that warm, just in your heart, just over your, and it was just, and he's like, hey, everything's fine. Don't worry about that. I'm good. I'm happy. I'm not in pain anymore. This just, just don't worry about it and go on. And I can't remember exactly how he worded it. I should have written it down. When you have that, you should have, because now I have to paraphrase what he says. And it almost was more like it was a feeling than it was spoken words. It was just like telepathy, I guess, how he was he was expressing that emotion to me without words. Like we were on a different level of communication. I don't know how to explain it, but it was just...
I think you just did.
You just did. And that's how spirit speaks to you. They don't talk with their mouth. They speak with their mind, but it's like you're hearing it as if they were speaking through their mouth, but you're also feeling it all at the same time. That was a visitation, because if you think about it, if you're on the other side, let's say you're on the other side, and you see Brad just a wreck because of your death, you're going to want to get through to him and be like, hey, don't feel like this. It's okay. I love you, and I'm here, and I'm happy, and I'm safe, and please don't worry about it. And that's exactly what your best friend did for you. So, I mean, that was as real as they get, and it happens to lots of people.
Look at her going to help him.
Because you were crying. Yeah.
Thanks, Voodoo.
Oh, she's even bringing you a toy to make you
bringing
happy.
you a toy.
Oh, she's going to knock the microphone stand over.
I love it. She's a little empath.
She's probably like, you humans talk too much. You should just throw this around and let me chase it.
Yeah, she goes, this will make you happy. Play with this rope.
She's like, this works for me. Here you go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good girl.
That's a good therapy dog.
She really is.
It's funny. She'll sit in here with Nan when Nan is working, and she just helps people. It's
so
the
awesome.
craziest thing.
No, I was extremely grateful, and I can't wait until I get to see Ryan again, and I can thank him for that. And I'm sure maybe by then it'll be the point where it won't matter. I know death only matters to the living, and I think sometimes the dead have to remind us of that. that they're okay. They're not suffering. They're not. Yeah. So, Ryan, yeah, I miss you, brother. I can't wait till that day that we get to see him again.
Yeah.
But according to Nan, he's part of our team, so I guess he's with us wherever we go.
Yeah, and if you want to sharpen your clairs, it's just like building a bicep. You have to practice.
So what is that exactly?
Your clairs are your senses. So your clairsentience, your clairvoyance,
Okay.
all of those, right? You've got all of your senses. So if you want to see Ryan again, you need to practice your clairvoyance. And there's some steps that you can go through to learn how to practice that. And you can even tell your spirit team, hey, I am learning how to see spirit. Teach me how to see spirit more. Or if you want to hear it more, or if you want to have a pregnant nose like Brad and smell spirit, you
It's
can
not always
practice that
great.
one.
Believe me, it's not always great.
Was he just walking around the house and he stops. He goes, I smell dead people.
Close. It's more like, do you smell the guy smoking? Like, nope. And he's like, dang it.
Okay, well, this is all fun and good until you get a gassy spirit.
Exactly. That's the problem. You're like, okay, this one's a stinker.
Yeah, but when that happens, it's usually Brad.
Oh, low blow. Man. So Nan, what, you talk about, hey, you can practice to get stronger at these. What would you recommend to people out there like Wylin who are like, hey, I've got these loved ones. I want to be able to connect with them more. What would you suggest?
Well, if you can picture, the old time radios with the tuning stations, the little knobs on there. If you can picture your loved one is at 100.1, okay, for example. And if you want to talk to your loved one and you want to feel them, they're at 100.1. But you're at like 89, you're not going to feel them or hear them or jack shit, right?
Yeah.
But if you calm the freeway in your mind and you practice stilling your mind, and you do that through meditation, even if it's just a couple of minutes a day, you're in charge of your thoughts then you can change your frequency and you can match them. So for example, I had a client that wanted to feel a loved one that had passed. And she kept saying, my sister feels this person, my mom feels this person, and she's like, I'm not feeling it, and I'm feeling cheated because I can't feel this person. And so I took her through an exercise where we stilled her mind, and I told her, make sure that you pay attention to what happens in your brain as we do this. And halfway through, I just pointed. I'm like, so what's going on in your brain? She's like, nothing. I'm like, exactly. That's how you tune in. And now we ask the spirit to come in and blend with your energy. And if you don't feel this person, ask them to come closer and ask them to come closer until you feel them. And she felt him. She felt the person. And she was just like, oh my gosh. I'm like, if you can feel it once, you can always feel it. It's just a matter of calming that freeway in your brain. And you do that by practicing meditation. And then you go to your clairs, so all of your senses. So if spirit's going to talk to us, it's going to be through all of our senses. So for example, you and I are talking. You can hear me. You can see my eyes. You can feel me. If I start to tell you a sad story, you'll feel it and you'll start to well up because the emotions in the room and all the things. So it's all of those experiences, all of those senses, and spirit does the same thing, except for spirit can see which one you're best at. So I'm best at my sight. Brad's best at a smeller. So spirit's going to be like, oh, well, I'm going to stink some shit up for Brad because that's going to draw him close to me right now. And then make him, his second one is his clairsentience, his feeling, his heart chakra. So, and he will get philo-erection like crazy if there's a spirit around. So, but his first one would probably be his scent because he'd be like, oh, what's that smell? And then his hair will stand up and then so do you know what I mean? So spirit will go through and use all of your senses. Whereas since I've practiced, I'll see, but also feel and I'll hear and I'll do all the things all at once now, but I've had to practice.
Okay.
So there's lots of ways that you can practice there. If you wanted to do your hearing, there are, I have these microphone thingies. They're called the Now speakers, NOW speakers.
Mm-hmm.
And they only last for 3 minutes if you push the buttons, and they play Tibetan bowls, but they vibrate in your hands. So you close your eyes and it's like yoga for your brain,
Mm-hmm.
which is exactly what you need to calm your brain.
They're super cool.
They're really cool. They're like $175, worth every single penny. But you just hold them in your hands, turn them on for the 3 minutes, and then concentrate on only hearing the Tibetan bowls. And when you're beginning, you're going to have your thoughts go to, oh, what am I going to fix for dinner? Oh, I got to take my dog on a walk. Oh, all the things. But if you keep bringing it back to this beautiful bowls, pretty soon you'll be doing it, and you won't have your mind racing to do other things. You'll only hear the bowls. And that's when you start to hear spirits' words and their sentences, and you're like, holy shit, this is so much better.
So my ham radio brain, we were talking before we started the podcast about frequencies and being in tune.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things from science class when I was younger was when you would put the tuning fork on the front on the teacher's desk, and then you have another tuning fork in the back of the room that was the same frequency. You could hit that one and you could stop that one, and the other one would match that frequency.
Exactly.
So is that essentially what you're
Exactly.
saying? Is you need to match that
Frequency.
Yeah.
1,000%.
Because once you're both vibrating in unison.
in unison.
Because
Exactly.
you're matching the frequencies.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Thank you for putting it. I have full body chills right now. Thank you for the science spin. I love science.
That was, to me, that's just so cool that things in nature. I think you posted a video about the salt or the thing that when it would, and I'm like, that totally makes sense that there's that vibration in nature, which, as we know, when something's hot, it's because the molecules are vibrating faster. But they say that science has not figured out how to completely stop the vibration completely. There's no way to do
can't.
it. In nature, there's no way. So
You
what they say
can't.
about nature, you can't stop it.
No.
Like they've tried to achieve absolute zero, which is where there's no molecule movement at all.
Exactly, but you
Mankind does
can't.
not do it.
No.
No.
And a lot of people think that energy stops when you die, and it doesn't. Energy never stops. It only changes forms.
Transfer. Yeah,
Yeah. So it never stops vibrating.
that makes sense. Totally makes sense.
You totally make sense.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Yes, I love it. I love science though. So cool.
You know, my dad's a math teacher, really smart. He taught engineering students, like he had equations where they could figure out how much the earth curves in an inch. He was teaching engineers essentially. I remember one thing my dad always used to say was, all math does is reflect truth that's in the universe. That's all math does. It's a way for mankind to see what they see and put it into a form that they can comprehend. So math is just, so it's essentially, the universe is the universe, and math just gives us a way to write it down, explain it. Is that way he always said. It's not that hard. You're just writing down everything to explain how the universe works.
No big deal. Just the universe.
The universe, yeah. But to them, to like people like my dad with that math knowledge, where they could just rattle off numbers and theorems and stuff, that I'd like to have see my dad's still alive, but see in his brain at his prime. Just experience it for a minute. I'd either be enlightened or it'd drive me mad because my brain couldn't comprehend.
Your dad is so cool, though. I remember being at your house and he would be practicing to play the organ on Sunday, and he'd be playing, and then he'd start giggling, and you're like, what's going on? And he'd like stop and goes, did you hear that? And then he'd play like the chord just by himself. He goes, that's the Doobie Brothers. And then he would mix it in to like these hymns. And
he loved the Doobie Brothers.
Yeah, it was just like his own personal joke because unless you were really listening, you couldn't hear it. But he thought that was so funny because here he is, like he's being a rebel in his own way. It was hilarious.
And there's a huge correlation between music and mathematics, because you have fraction beats, and it's very common for people who are good with mathematics to understand music as well. There was a show, I think it was called Fringe, and there was a kid that was he was like a savant on the piano, and the scientists couldn't figure out this mathematic problem, so they put it into music. And they gave it to this kid, and he was trying to figure out this melody, it enabled them to figure out this complicated math problem.
Wow.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And I remember asking my dad about that, and he goes, "Oh yeah," he says music is totally just fractions.
Huh.
So yeah, I that's.
Do you play an instrument?
No.
Okay, I'm going to stop you.
I played the piano a little bit, but
I remember you being like, I got to practice the fucking piano.
I never said that, Mom. I never said that one time. If you're listening, I never said fucking piano.
Oh, yes, he did. Elaine, he did.
Yeah. See, the thing about it is that I think my mom was the point to where she was fighting me with it so much that she just gave up. But what happened was I was at that point where I was actually starting to learn and like it, but my mom gave up. So I'm like, so Mom's not going to ride my butt about playing the piano anymore. So I just gave up, and I'm kind of mad that my mom didn't have more. Granted, it's on the person, but it's just, I was thinking, I wish my mom would have been just a little bit more forceful, because I'm starting to get to the point where it was less effort to just practice the fucking piano than fight my mom about practicing the fucking piano. And I was, you know how when you're young, it's like, it's always a fight, and you don't realize that it's, if I just give in or if I just do what they wanted, it would be easier. Well, I was just at that precipice where I was figuring out that if I just did it, that she'd be off my ass and I could go play with Brad and Ryan and throw tomatoes at cars coming down the highway and snowballs. And yeah, we had a very fun upbringing.
Yeah, pretty much anything that grew in the garden.
Anything that wasn't heavy enough would get thrown over the fence.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
That's awesome.
If Brad and I were going to Ryan's house, pretty much you knew that within, what would you say, Brad, an hour and a half, the police were going to be called. At least at some time during the night, the police were going to be called.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Or someone was going to stop and, pound on the front door. And thank God his older sister would always.
Becky was the best.
Oh.
Becky protected us little shit so good.
Yep. You need to leave. You're making me really uncomfortable. I'm all alone here.
She was the most innocent looking. She was great. She would, like, someone would knock on the door, says, no, there's no one here. It's just me. And if they get persistent, then yeah, she'd pull that I'm an innocent girl card. She did it so well too.
Oh yeah.
That's hilarious.
Oh, we were bad.
What a great sister.
She was awesome.
Right? It was like having your own sister.
And
It
then
was
you
cool.
become a cop, Brad. That's funny.
I think there's a very fine line.
Karma.
You either go one way or the other. Or I just
When I talk to people we grew up with, I say, "Oh yeah, Brad was a police officer," and they're always like, "Yeah, figures." Brad had the least respect for authority of any of us growing up. Brad had a zero respect for authority. I just thought it was just so ironic that he became a police officer.
right? I think it was a lot of karma.
When your parents say, "I hope you have a kid that's just half as bad as you," and so that was the universe getting back at Brad,
Right?
Because he hated it. It was any authority. He was like Cartman.
I think, you know what? I think what it was is I didn't like to be talked down to.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, well, what makes you any different than me other than you've got, a little bit more experience?
The blatant disrespect.
Yeah, that's what made them different, is the blatant disrespect.
Now, see, the disrespect, I guess I kind of accepted that, but what really sparked my rebellious side was when someone told me I had to do something that I didn't exactly understand. Why do I have to do that? Just because you said so?
Right.
And that would get me, that would get my attention, and I'm all over that, because there needs to be a reason. I'm still like that today. Ask my wife. She says the first mistake you did is tell him Wylin he had to do something without a good reason, because he's not going to do it.
Well, I mean, we all have that, right? We're all like, well, you need to do this. Why? Explain to me why, and I'm happy to do things. But if you just say, go do this, that's hard for me to swallow, just like you. That's tough.
There's your basic rules. Don't touch the stove because it's hot. You'll burn yourself. Don't wander out in traffic. You'll get run over. I mean, there's that. You just don't want to be dumb, but I'm just like, when adults would tell you have to do this. Like, I remember Debbie Gardner, Mrs. Gardner. We were making a ruckus outside her door. She opens the door and says, "Hey, you little." I don't think she swore at us. She probably called us something that was okay. And he goes, "You kids need to act. You guys need to act your age." And I just remember stopping and looking at her. I'm like, exactly how are we supposed to act at this age? Because the way I'm thinking right now, we are acting our age. I think we're well within our bounds being teenagers acting the way that we're acting. So I didn't ever quite understand that question. I mean, now it's like act your age, and I'm like, well, I better get a cane. Better start dyeing my hair.
14.
That's a good point, though. I mean, act your age is one of those
Yep.
really nebulous phrases.
Yeah. I'm like, where's the book? Where's the manual?
Yeah.
I am never going to act my age.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's make a pact right now that we'll
Nope.
never act our age.
No, pinky promises all
Yep.
around.
I don't think any of us have anyway.
No.
Well, not when Brad and I are within vicinity of each other. We are
Hey, we've been pretty good so
tonight,
far.
Yeah.
You guys kind of got your wiggles out at dinner. So
Yeah.
Treats us like we're 5. You got your wiggles out. Go sit on your pockets. Go sit on your pockets, Brad.
I headed I headed Nanette off, and I said, "And we're 14," before she had a chance to say it. And we're 14 again. I got to that first.
it's true.
I think we were worse than Vegas, though. Vegas was a lot of fun.
It was so fun. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Very good time. How did we start talking about my mission? Then we got on Ryan.
Do you know what? That just kind
I
of
don't know.
happened, didn't it?
But
So
going on
so
your
back
mission.
onto your mission again.
Riverside, California.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you go because you wanted to go, or did you go because it was expected?
You know, it's like they tell you, oh, if you live in Utah County, if you don't go on a mission, there's no girl that's want to date you or marry you. There's always that stigma.
Yeah.
Because you know how the Mormon Church rules with shame. And
Oh yeah.
like you said, you have no worth if you do not follow the tenets of the church.
It's
You are
true.
not going to have any worth, and no one's going to want to be with you.
If you're
So-
a girl, but if you knock up a girl,
Mhm.
hello, then you don't get the shame.
No, you still do. You still do.
Do you get the shame as bad as a girl?
Not
does,
as bad
then?
not as bad as a girl does,
I
but
think
I
in Mormonism,
see
yeah.
what Wylin's saying
Mhm.
because it's like,
It's-
they only
because-
want to return missionary.
Because look, when look at the girls in Laurel's when they're growing up, the girls like, what do you want from your husband when you grow up? And the girls toe the line, like my wife has said this to me several times. You write down, oh, I want a return missionary, I want an Eagle Scout, I
Yeah.
want, and this is
A worthy priesthood holder.
So that gets in your brain that you think, oh, if I don't go on a mission, then I'm not going to have any worth to anybody when I get home.
Yeah.
Unless I leave my home state and leave my home and go someplace else where there's not members. I refuse to rebrand for the church, so it's just going to be the Mormon Church. I refuse to say Latter-day Saints because Brad and I decided we're not rebranding for the church. Nope. So I'm not going to say that. So
Win for Satan.
but like I think in the Mormon religion, there is that you have no worth if you don't follow this. You grow up, when you're old enough, you go on a mission, you do this. And when you come home, you're going to be this spiritual giant and you're going to become a bishop and you're, like the plans laid out in front of you. It's kind of funny because some of the elders I went on the mission with, they pretty much have just worked into that role. They're strong in the church. They're bishops. And then half of the guys I went with, we're not in the church. We're not in church anymore. It's just kind of interesting. And
Wait, you're not a bishop?
no, I'm not a bishop. Yeah, there's that guy on the radio that does the "Your Mama's So Mormon." Your mama's so Mormon, she's still disappointed that your dad never made bishop. So that's one of my favorites. No, but that's I think that's a stigma in the church, and that's kind of like what I was looking at because you want to come home. You're a young kid. You want to come home and be able to date. And the way they make you think that you're come, no one's going to want to. You didn't go on a mission. No one. You have no worth. So I think in a way that's the same treatment they give the women in the church too. It's just
true.
in a different way. That's how I looked at it, and that's why I went. And I just kind of went through the motions. I mean, I learned a lot on my mission, and a really good buddy of mine that I'm still friends with to this day. He's not a member of the church anymore, the Mormon Church, but even he says, I wouldn't discourage a kid to go. He has kids that have gone that are on missions now. He said the friendships I made there were worth it. And our experiences were good. I wouldn't tell someone not to do it, and because he says that was some of the most fun we had but it's just kids out there and you're trying to make as much fun as you can, and kids are going to do anything.
Well, and now they're even younger.
Oh, it's crazy now. The rules from when I went, the rules of what we couldn't write, we could write home, but we couldn't call home, no contact with home. If we did any of that, we were told we were distracted. We weren't a good missionary. We weren't following the rules.
Oh, it's the polar opposite now.
Yeah. Now I can't believe what they get away with now. And that's another thing about the churches. Why was it not okay for us?
But it is.
But it's okay now.
Because they're a bunch of pussies now.
I think we talked about that at dinner. The kids these days are a bunch of American pussies.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, I read an article that the church is letting missionaries take cats on their missions now.
Oh,
Emotional
really?
support cats.
Really? We're giving into that too?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the other day, the sister missionaries came to our house, and they were in pantsuits. They were both dressed up like Hillary Clinton in a pantsuit.
What?
I'm like, when did this change? So the sister missionaries don't have to wear dresses now, too? Is this a new thing?
Did you ask them?
No, because Kristen wouldn't let me answer the door.
Oh, she's looking
She's
on
like-
the ring
she's
doorbell.
like, she says, don't you dare. And I'm walking and says, don't you touch that door. Don't you do it. Don't you open that door.
Oh my gosh, she sounds like Brad to
It's like,
me.
don't open that. Don't do that. And I was like, okay. But yeah, I was like, I wanted to, so like, this is, I'd go, this is a really bad look. I mean, the sister missionaries on my mission were so well dressed. They were, I mean, it's just a different time, and it makes me sound old when I say it, so maybe I should just shut up. But it's, when I saw them, I'm like, they can wear that now. It's changed so much. You know, the church has changed a lot. Like my mom, when she went on a mission, she went to Kentucky, Tennessee, and they were teaching the gospel to black people. And she actually got in trouble from her mission president because she was like, Sister Lucas, we're not teaching the gospel to, he had some biblical term for black people. I can't remember what it was, but she says, we're not teaching. So she actually got in trouble for that because at the time the blacks weren't allowed to have the priesthood. And that's another change in the church. And when it became, and think about it.
So he didn't want her teaching them because they were black.
Yeah. She was not allowed to teach them the gospel and faith, repentance, baptism because they were black.
Wow.
But then when the church got political pressure after Martin Luther King, all of a sudden they give in, just like they did on the gay issue, which I have no problem with people want to be in the church and be gay or what. I have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. But then the church, they do all these restrictions for people whose parents were gay, and they said they couldn't participate in churches. So then the church gets bad press, and then all of a sudden they change their stance on it. And that, if my wife was here, that's one of the biggest things that really bugs her about the Mormon religion. But yet when you're being raised in it, you're told that this is going to be what it's going to be. It's not going to change. It's going to be the same. And it's because it's
God
the true,
doesn't change, Wylin.
It's the true gospel of God. So, but yet I could sit here and come up with examples of things that they have changed for another hour and bore everyone to death. But it's just like I think they gave in, some of the ward buildings gave in on the transgender bathrooms too. So they did away with the men's and women's bathrooms.
Shut the front door.
I think a couple churches in Orem, they did that.
Wow.
They took out all the men's. They just have single occupancy bathrooms now.
Well,
so
that's a lot more comfortable.
I'd
rather have a nice closed off stall.
Me personally, I would rather have
Really?
the room to
Yeah.
myself.
Really? Would you like to be a girl going in after a guy that pisses on the seat? No. You have yet to experience that. Let me help you out next time.
Hello, guys don't hover and go. Guys' bathrooms are usually cleaner.
I doubt it. I completely doubt it.
I don't know if I can attest for that, but I always know there's not a line in the men's bathroom.
You guys have urinals and
I know
things.
women have to park it. Men can just do drive-bys.
Well, and in some places like stadiums, they used to have like the big trough.
Oh my gosh.
Like you have like everyone lined up.
Yep.
There's no partitions. It's just everyone hanging out, pissing in a trough.
I just don't get it.
My uncle said that was like he was a former Murray police officer. He said he called it the sheriff's office because you know how they call detectives dicks. He said that's the sheriff's office because that's where all the dicks hang out. So, I love that. And he always say, you gotta go to the sheriff's office. And I was, what do you mean? He says, the place where all the dicks hang out. Yeah, you gotta love that.
Everyone needs an uncle like that.
Oh yeah. I have a shirt that I wear that says Drunkle on it.
Drunkle.
When I hang out with the Mormon side of the family, they just pretend like I'm not even wearing it, but I have to wear it. Oh my gosh.
Wylin, thank you so much for
this has
coming
been
in
awesome.
here and visiting.
Thank you. I'm honored that you invited me in to share this time with you guys. Thank you so much.
you're
I know
awesome.
we just kind of rambled and talked about everything, Nan. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You called it at the beginning, though.
I did. I warned.
No, but this is awesome. This is great to share this time with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you
again.
so much. And thank you, everyone, for listening. If you want to book a session with Nan, you can do that on her calendar. There's a link in the show notes. You can also check out our new awesome website. I'm also going to make sure there's a link for that in the show notes. So please take a look at that and make sure to hit that like button and subscribe and give us a little bit of love on the reviews.
We hope you have a wonderful week and know that we appreciate everything that you do for us. And keep your heads up, stay positive, know everything's going to be okay. And we'll see you
On the other side of the veil.